Vibe check. Vibe check. So before the season started, we went through and assessed every team's vibe across the league. Who was coming into the season with good vibes, who was coming in with bad vibes, who was coming in somewhere in the middle. And now I think enough time has passed in the 2025 season. We are rapidly approaching the season's halfway point. So it feels like a good time to officially reassess every team's vibe. Starting with the Arizona Cardinals, who we had in mid before the season, but I think it's fair to move them down a little bit now and put them in bad. Kyler Murray looks disinterested like he kind of has throughout his entire career. Andy's hurt now. All the running backs are hurt. Jonathan Gannon tried to beat up one of the only ones who wasn't hurt, and now he's hurt too. And that's the same guy who fumbled the ball before crossing the goal line, ultimately leading to them losing to the Tennessee Titans. Yeah, I think your vibes have to be bad if you lose to the Titans. It's kind of just a rule. Look, it's not all doom and gloom for Arizona. They're 2-5, but a lot of their losses are to really good teams by not a lot of points. We're talking the Packers by 4, the Colts by 4, the Seahawks by 3, and I know moral victories aren't going to get you in the playoffs, but there's enough here that I don't think we have to seriously consider blowing it up just yet. The Atlanta Falcons are mid. I don't know if any team can personify mid more than the Falcons right now. Their record's 3-3. They've experienced both ends of the extreme with their games this year, losing 30-0 to the Panthers and then beating the Bills 24-14 on primetime. This season still very much feels like it could go either direction. They could win their division or everyone could get fired at the end of the year. And I don't know which way it's gonna go, so for now, mid. The Baltimore Ravens, oh boy. I mean, for right now, I think I gotta go bad. I think what's happened up to this point, you could definitely go real bad or dumpster fire, because being 1-5 through 6 games was unthinkable before the season started. But I think there's enough optimism going forward with guys getting healthy, specifically Lamar Jackson, that things won't stay this bad, but the vibes are still bad. They've been injured like crazy. Their defense has looked like moldy Swiss cheese. It's not great in Baltimore. The Buffalo Bills, I think we're going to put them in good. Their outlook's still positive. They're 4-2, even though they're not leading their division. Guess who is? I had them in great before the season started because obviously they were one of the highest tier contenders in the NFL. And I still very much think they are Super Bowl contenders. They've just shown some more weaknesses than maybe we would have expected. And losing to the Falcons and the Patriots probably wasn't on their bingo card. But they still have Josh Allen, and your vibes are always going to be good when you have Josh Allen. The Carolina Panthers vibes are also mid. Shout out the NFC South. They've had good moments. They've had bad moments. Bryce Young has looked decent. Bryce Young has looked horrible. At the end of the day, though, they are sitting at 4-3. And I think before the season, if you told them through 7 games that's what their record would be, they absolutely would have taken that. So it is what it is. The Chicago Bears vibes are good. New head coach, new system, everyone's still adjusting. But after 2 losses to open the year, the Bears have now ripped off 4 straight wins, sitting at 4-2, which is only good for 3rd place in the NFC North because it's the NFC North. But that's still a great record with a first-time head coach, and the offense really seems to be clicking. We'll see what happens when they face some tougher competition again. Their losses to open the year were against the Vikings and the Lions, and their 4 wins have come against the Cowboys, Raiders, Commanders, and Saints. But overall, I don't think Bears fans can complain too much. You know, against all odds, the Cincinnati Bengals are going to avoid these bottom 2 tiers. I'm going to put them in bad. Losing Joe Burrow for 3 months with turf toe, while neither your defense or O-line can stop anybody from doing anything they want, is not a great formula for having a good season. And yet the Bengals still sit here at 3-4 with Joe Flacco starting to play some good ball for them. I'm still not convinced this thing doesn't completely collapse and dissuade Joe Burrow from even bothering to try to return at the end of the year. But the door is still open for the Bengals to squeak into the playoffs if Flacco can keep riding this high. Something about these Joe quarterbacks in Cincinnati, man. I don't know what it is. The Cleveland Browns, honestly, I think their vibes are mid. I don't think they're bad because we're actually looking at a really nice rookie class they put together. Graham, Schlesinger, Judkins, Fannin, Gabriel. They've somehow put together a nice little young core here that's at least fun to watch develop. Now, they are still 2-5, and as nice as this young core is that they put together, I still don't think they've solved the quarterback part of it, so we can't go too crazy with the vibes, but they're a lot better than I thought they'd be at this point in the season. The Dallas Cowboys vibes are also mid, because again, you've got 2 extremes working against each other. Their offense is one of the most fun to watch in the entire league. The Pickens trade was a slam dunk. The Javonte Williams signing, amazingly, and against my better judgment, was also a slam dunk, but their defense is just horrific, and it really lowers their ceiling for the season unless they can make a trade or make some kind of move to improve themselves on that side of the ball. So mid vibes over in Dallas, although they're at least some entertaining mid vibes. I think the Broncos vibes are good. I know 5-2, leading a division that has the Kansas City Chiefs in it, you might think I would put them in the great tier, but I gotta look at how they've won some of these games. We're talking about needing 33 points in the 4th quarter to beat the Giants, beating the Jets by 2 points over in London, and then 2 of their other wins coming against the Shambles Bengals and the Shambles Titans. Now granted, there is a win against the Eagles in here as well, but they haven't been quite what we've expected either so far this year. I'm not discrediting them. I think the Broncos are a very good football team. I think they'll be in the playoffs, and I think they could still win this division, although my pick would be Kansas City. But I just want to temper the expectations here a little bit because it hasn't all been sunshine and rainbows. The Detroit Lions vibes are great. Their main question coming into the year was how would they adjust after losing all of those coaches this offseason? And the answer is it doesn't look like it mattered at all. They've still looked strong defensively without Aaron Glenn. They've still looked just as efficient and fun on offense without Ben Johnson. And they look every bit like a Super Bowl contender. But the Green Bay Packers vibes are also great. Trading for Micah Parsons will do that, and so will being in first place in the NFC North ahead of the team I just talked about. Now, losing to the Browns and tying the Cowboys are definitely some interesting results to have on your resume, but a win over the Lions and taking care of business otherwise speaks volumes. The Houston Texans vibes are real bad, man. I had hoped that Nick Caley as their new offensive coordinator would bring some life to this passing game again, just to the offense as a whole. That has not happened. The offense looks worse than it ever has. The O-line looks worse than it ever has. Joe Mixon has obviously missed the entire season up to this point with some mystery foot injury with no sign that he's coming back. And CJ Stroud, whether it's all environmental or some issues of his own, has done nothing but regress since his rookie season. Yeah, it's depressing down there in Houston. The Indianapolis Colts vibes are immaculate. There's no other way to put it. I had this team in the bad vibes tier in the preseason version of this video, and I, along with probably most of the country and most of the NFL fan base, could not have been more wrong. Indiana Jones has led this team to a 6-1 record through 7 games, comfortably leading the AFC South, and it doesn't feel fake. If you watch the Colts, it genuinely feels like this is a legitimate contender this season. And keep in mind, this is a vibes tier list. I'm not necessarily saying the Colts are a better team than the Lions or Packers, but in terms of evaluating what the vibes are like surrounding these teams, I can't imagine any team has higher vibes than Indianapolis. The Jacksonville Jaguars I'll put in mid. If I'm being really honest with myself, at this very moment, the vibes feel kind of bad with Jacksonville. I mean, their last 2 games are a blowout loss in London to the Rams and a loss to the Seahawks at home, but they are 4-3, including a win over the Kansas City Chiefs, so I do want to take a big picture approach here, but things do feel kind of weird. They've had one of the craziest drop issues I've ever seen a team have. We're not just talking Brian Thomas Jr. anymore, we're talking literally everybody except Travis Hunter. And speaking of Travis Hunter, they're only just now, I think, starting to figure out how they should actually be using him, which is, you know, on offense because the rest of your receivers can't catch. So I don't know. I think there's definitely room for improvement. It's another team that I could see going, you know, up or down as the season progresses. But right now, they're kind of just in the middle. The Kansas City Chiefs, I think the vibes are good and rising. They've got Rashee Rice back now off of suspension, and their offense looks like a major problem, which is crazy because they still can't really run the ball. But Mahomes is having one of those years where he's just putting up stupid numbers. He has the best and healthiest receiving core that he's had in years, and the defense is still strong. So I think they're going to put that slow start behind them. And honestly, if I had to pick today, I'd probably pick them to make the Super Bowl out of the AFC. God, I hate that. The Raiders vibes are real bad. I don't know what happened to Geno Smith. I don't know if these last couple years in Seattle were just a mirage, but he looks like genuinely one of the worst quarterbacks in football now, and it has just completely tanked any hope the Raiders had of being a competitive football team. And that includes the fact that Ashton Genty hasn't really been able to get going, because when defenses don't have to respect the pass at all, they're able to key in on him so he can't reach his potential either. And oh yeah, Brock Bowers has also been hurt most of the year, and their defense is terrible. Not a whole lot going right in Vegas. The Los Angeles Chargers vibes are mid. This is pretty much exclusively injury related. I mean, you lose Rashawn Slater before the season even starts. You lose Joe Alt for weeks at a time. You lose Omarion Hampton as soon as he starts putting it together. You lose Najee Harris before that. God, I almost forgot about him. If they can just get a little bit healthier and stay that way, I do think we're still looking at a playoff team here. But I don't know. The injury gods seem pretty determined to take this team out. The Los Angeles Rams vibes are great. Came into the year with a lot of question marks about Matthew Stafford's back specifically. Turns out he's totally fine and playing some of the best football of his career. So that's not a concern, and they've looked really good on both sides of the ball. Another team that I would not be surprised to see in the Super Bowl come February. And I don't think anybody would really complain about Stafford getting a shot at the second ring. The Miami Dolphins. If you guessed that this bottom tier was reserved exclusively for them, you were right. This team is a complete and total dumpster fire. Defense, one of the worst in the league. Offensive line, one of the worst in the league. Quarterback, one of the worst in the league. It is crazy what happened to Tua Tagovailoa. The minute defenses said, hey, we're just not going to let you throw the deep ball over our heads anymore. Like, yeah, your quarterback can look good when he's in a perfect situation and everything's flowing great. But what happens when everything falls apart around him? Is he going to fall apart too? Because Tua's not just falling apart. He is crashing and burning. Homie's like the challenger, except the only thing he's challenging is the limits of how bad a quarterback can be. Yeah, the Dolphins got to blow it all up. We need new quarterback, new head coach, probably new GM, just new literally everything, except the uniforms. The uniforms are pretty colors. The Minnesota Vikings are the Minnesota Vikings. Their defense is still mostly doing its thing under Brian Flores, so that part of the team's good, but it seems like there are some real question marks at the quarterback position. JJ McCarthy played basically one really good quarter of football before getting hurt and now missing the last few weeks. And then they turned to Carson Wentz, and Carson Wentz is proving that Kevin O'Connell can't necessarily make any quarterback into a good quarterback. I still believe that JJ can turn into a quarterback who doesn't actively lose the Vikings games, which is all they really need with such a talented roster around him. But right now that is a question mark, so it's very much TBD. All right, baby, it's time. The New England Patriots vibes are immaculate. When I tell you Drake May has surpassed the expectations of even the most optimistic Patriots fan in year 2, I mean, this dude is just electric to watch every Sunday. He is one of the stories of this NFL season. And add on top of that Mike Vrabel has completely turned around the culture of this team, and they currently sit at first place in the AFC East over the Bills with a victory over the Bills. I'm living my best life over here. The New Orleans Saints are living their worst life. Their vibes are real bad. This was kind of expected though. I mean, nobody really thought the Saints were going to be good this year, and they're really the only team in this tier so far that we can say that about. I think the Raiders and Texans at least had some realistic wild card hopes entering the year. But the Saints, we knew this was going to be bad. It's the first step of a rebuild, so I'm not going to rag on them too much. I think Kellen Moore's doing a decent job. They just got to find a quarterback. And a lot of other stuff. This next team may be the biggest discrepancy between their record and their vibes, because I can't look at the New York Giants and not say that their vibes are great. It is the best vibed 2-5 team I've ever seen. The combination of Jackson Dart and Cam Scadaboo is equal parts hilariously entertaining and genuinely good at football. And I didn't really think that would be the case for either of them entering the year. I mean, Jackson Dart was not this like can't miss quarterback prospect, and Cam Scadaboo was a mid-round running back. And yet these two have combined to just create an entirely new identity in New York. It's not necessarily going to materialize into a competitive season this year, but the building blocks are absolutely there. The New York Jets, meanwhile, their vibes are real bad. You've got Aaron Glenn being weird, like deflecting questions about benching Justin Fields and then doing it a week later. And then you've got Woody Johnson butting in again, which he said he wouldn't do, but he's doing. Making headlines by saying, oh, well, our offense would look really good if we could just complete a pass. Like, dude, Justin Fields is still on your roster, and you definitely had a part in picking him as your quarterback. Let's maybe not publicly disparage the guy who, yes, he sucks at football, but he hasn't said anything bad about you. He's not throwing anybody under the bus. He's just sucking. Let him suck in peace. All the Jets could have realistically hoped for out of this season was that Aaron Glenn would put a solid culture in place and that they could use this season as a launching point going forward. I'm just not sure they're doing that. The Philadelphia Eagles vibes are mid. Honestly, they're lucky I'm making this video when I am, because it's coming on the heels of a win over the Vikings where their passing game finally got going to like a high level for the first time this year. Because if not for that, I probably would have put them in the bad vibe section despite their winning record, because this has not been a smooth season for the Eagles so far. There's questions around their offensive coordinator again, because their offense does not look nearly as good as it did with Kellen Moore. It kind of seems like they may have pulled a Brian Johnson 2.0 with hiring Kevin Patullo. But again, the passing game did just now start to get going, so we'll see if they can keep that momentum up. But even with the pass game turning around, Saquon Barkley still just has not gotten off the ground this year. And I'm not sure we can really look at this team as a Super Bowl favorite until he starts getting it going a little bit more. Pittsburgh Steelers vibes are mid as well. I admit they're doing better than I expected. I put them in the bad tier before the season started, but they're coming off a loss to the Joe Flacco Bengals after Mike Tomlin basically cried about the fact that the Browns gave Joe Flacco to the Bengals, saying, oh, I don't know why you would help out a team in your division who's struggling at quarterback by giving them a guy that you named your starter on opening day. Buddy, how about you learn to defend 80-year-old Joe Flacco who's been in your division for 2 decades? I don't know. It just seems like excuse making. It seems like this team is just kind of fine. There's nothing about the Steelers, despite their 4-2 record, that tells me this is any kind of serious contender. The San Francisco 49ers, honestly, their vibes somehow are great. Despite dealing with all these injuries, because the Niners are always dealing with injuries, their record hasn't really been affected. They're sitting here at 5-2. Mac Jones is playing good football. And maybe most importantly, despite all the injuries, Christian McCaffrey is healthy, which I think has been the real key to their success so far. There's just something about facing all of that adversity and still succeeding in spite of it that make the vibes feel good. I gotta think the Seattle Seahawks vibes are great as well. Another team I was skeptical about coming into the season, mainly because of Sam Darnold. And I'll admit, again, I guess, that I was wrong about Darnold. We'll see how he performs if and when they get to a playoff game again, because that is where it all just completely fell apart in Minnesota. But for now, Darnold's showing that he can still be a good quarterback even outside of Kevin O'Connell's system, which is more than I thought he could do. So at 5-2, we gotta put Seattle in great. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I guess I'll put in good despite all their injuries right now as well. Maybe it's the recency bias in me putting them in good instead of great, because we have the Niners in great despite their injury issues, but I just can't say a team has great vibes when it just lost Mike Evans for the season, or at least until the last few weeks of the season. Again, this one almost feels more Chargers-y to me, where it's like the injury gods are doing everything they can to be like, oh, you think you're overcoming this one? Yeah, guess what? Strike you down again. Thankfully, Emeka Ibuka's hamstring injury isn't as serious as it could have been, so at least he's around. But between Mike Evans' injury, Chris Godwin being hurt again, Bucky Irving being hurt, it's just hard to feel super duper positive about this team. But 5-2 is 5-2, and Baker Mayfield has played some great football so far this year. I mean, heading into this past week, he might have been the MVP favorite, so it's not all bad. The Tennessee Titans, I said the dumpster fire tier was reserved for the Dolphins. I admit I kind of forgot about the Titans. No, they're a dumpster fire too. The only team to fire their head coach so far this season, although Mike McDaniel will be joining them soon. They're effectively wasting Cam Ward's rookie season because there's really no positive development happening at all with him, and he's just gonna have to learn an entirely new system next year when they bring in a new head coach and a totally new staff, and that's just never good. Overall, teams are licking their chops anytime they see Tennessee coming up on their schedule, so yeah, it's no bueno down there in Nashville. And lastly, the Washington Commanders, I think their vibes are bad. The year already started off weird with Terry McLaurin holding out right up until the start of the season, and then he came back and got hurt, as it seems like every wide receiver who holds out does. Then Austin Eckler got hurt, then Deebo Samuel got hurt. They are just hemorrhaging injuries, and now Jaden Daniels is hurt too. Doesn't seem like a super long-term thing, but it's kind of just the cherry on top of a season that was supposed to build on their incredible success of last year and is just not even coming close to doing that. I think the Commanders' future is bright overall, but it seems like this season might end up being pretty forgettable. But that'll do it for the mid-season vibe check. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my placements here. I can't wait to see how the rest of the NFL season plays out, and as always, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.